Dr. Corneliu Bjola, who's an associate professor in diplomatic studies and the head of Oxford Digital Diplomacy Research Group. Welcome to the NewsHour. Great to have you here. This is fascinating.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. And now you've been researching the impact of digital technology on diplomacy. Tell us, what is lost with all those glitches, with people forgetting to unmute themselves and everything that can possibly go wrong? How does that affect diplomacy? I mean, we cover so many press conferences here, and I always think about this.
Thank you very much for the question. We have to remember that we are at a different stage now comparing with 1 year ago. So people learned a little bit about how to do this kind of virtual diplomacy in the year that we've seen in that has passed. So when we looked at asking diplomats in a survey, what exactly works, what it doesn't, we found some interesting aspects. Some issues, yes. What makes a good Zoom or virtual meeting particularly effective? It's connectivity, and that's particularly important because it can affect the level of participation, security, as Marcus mentioned before, but also clear elements, clear agenda, and a good moderator, traditional diplomatic skills, and to keep things very short because of the problem with Zoom fatigue. And that takes me to the point that you ask in terms of what is being lost through this kind of, it's a feeling of alienation. The fact that, in face-to-face meetings, we read each other. We read each other. And that's particularly important for relationship building, for understanding the message. What Zoom does is to alienate, to fragment, to introduce a distortion in that type of reading of the other persons in the room. And this is where things have started, there is a need to improve probably more, the ability to connect with the other.
It really is interesting. And this week we had the G7 meeting of ministers for the first time in nearly 2 years. And they're still wearing masks. So what is lost? Even if they are face-to-face, but they're wearing masks, what's lost or gained in that type of meeting, in diplomacy?
I think among the leaders is a problem of body language or understanding each other. But I think the larger message, is pretty good. Wearing the mask, it's a public message, public health message that's being sent to their different constituencies. The problem with high-level meetings of a different nature with Zoom is that diplomacy, at the essence, is also to see and be seen. It's a lot about visibility. It's about status. It's about power projection. So these summits in the past were about what people used to get, who connect with who has more time spent with another one. That gives you a lot of information about how diplomatic things are moving. But when you put it in on a Zoom or this kind of virtual meeting, that element is being lost. The visibility that comes in terms of the power and the status projection, the prestige that is being associated with hosting this kind of summits goes away. So this is why Zoom diplomacy, in a sense, is very good for this kind of preparatory meetings, leading to a summit. But when it comes to the summit, that type of face, it makes, in a sense, what I'm saying, Zoom diplomacy, it makes face-to-face, high-level meetings even more important, exactly for this reason, visibility of power, of status, of prestige.
Definitely missing all those photo shoots and seeing those breakaway meetings here live on television. And let's look at the news agenda. And when you consider our news agenda and diplomatic, conflicts and diplomatic spats that have occurred over this year, could some of them have been avoided if we had, face-to-face? For example, the EU-AstraZeneca row. If we look at the situation in Myanmar, could things be different?
I tend to agree. And the reason is that, we see studies showing that people tend to tell certain things online which they would otherwise not tell people face-to-face. So there is kind of estrangement, alienation that takes place. But there is a bigger issue here. The issue is that diplomatic storms, digital storms, are easy to start online and easy to amplify online. They escalate because of the reputational cost that comes from climbing down. So this is where the face-to-face aspect comes into play. De-escalation, managing things that already are being amplified online to the point that becomes out of control. So I think the lack of digital presence, the lack of interaction, especially at the peak of this crisis, it's a problem. It has the exit strategy from this kind of digital storms is a face-to-face meeting. Pick up the phone, get together with others, try to climb down in a way exactly for the reason that I mentioned. Things that you don't want to say people face-to-face are easy to say online.
And last question for you. So many of our viewers are working from home, conducting Zoom meetings, about 5 or 6, up to 10 a day. I have friends who do that. Your tips for them?
Again, keep it short, have a good moderator to stimulate interaction and a clear agenda. These are 3-4 points that you like to discuss today. Discuss it in half an hour, 1 hour, and bring people on board with a good moderator.
Thank you so much. Dr. Corneliu Bjola, Associate Professor in Diplomatic Studies and the head of Oxford Digital Diplomacy Research Group. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.